I'm going to share with you guys. Can you see my poll up there, Dr. Trotter?
Yes.
All right. So it looks like about half of the people that have tuned in so far or answered the poll do some sort of remote consultations for patients. So that's good. We've got some experienced folks and some other folks that want to learn from you. So very excited to have Dr. Trotter here to talk to you guys about this. He's been a big advocate of exceptional patient care for a long time. My neighbor, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's just a little south of me in Georgia. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Trotter to introduce himself and a little bit about what he's going to cover today. If you have any
Yeah.
questions in the meantime, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll address them if the moment is right during the presentation. And we'll also save some time at the end for you guys to ask more questions that are pertinent to the content. So thanks, Dr. Trotter. I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Kurt. Yeah, I told Kurt if there's several people who seem to ask the same question, right about the same time, then it's obviously something I need to spend a little bit more time on. So he has full permission to interrupt me so that I can go back to something or spend a little bit more time on it. So don't hesitate. Otherwise, we'll get to other questions at the end. So I was born and raised in Augusta, down here in Augusta, Georgia. Went off to Greenville, South Carolina. If you've never been to Greenville, you should go visit. Put that on your list of places to visit that's kind of off your beaten path. Went to college there at Furman University. Played 2 years on the golf team and quickly realized that I wasn't going to be on the PGA Tour. And if I didn't start studying a little bit harder, I probably wasn't going to go to dental school either. So quit the golf team after 2 years, which was a really difficult decision to make, because golf has always been a passion of mine. Did get into dental school right out of Furman and came back to here in Augusta, which at the time was called the Medical College of Georgia, but is now the Dental College of Georgia. It's been through several name changes for those of you who are familiar with that situation. From there, I went to Jackson, Mississippi, and finished an AEGD at the University of Mississippi Medical Center, and then came back to Augusta for my orthodontic residency at what was then the Dental College of Georgia, still is, and joined my dad in private practice in January of 2014. And I got to practice with him until December of 2021, when he decided after 40 years in orthodontics and 50 years in dentistry, he had probably done enough. And so he retired at the end of 21. I met my wife, Liz, pictured here at Furman. And we have our son, Jackson. So we enjoyed our time in Jackson, Mississippi so much that we named our son Jackson. He's in 3rd grade. And then that's Annie, who's in 1st grade. And that's our dog, Dormy. Hopefully you can't hear her barking outside right now. So, like I said, I joined my dad. He had opened our practice in Augusta, Georgia back in 1981. And, it was a really good single location practice. I think it went through the normal life cycle of an orthodontic practice, which was, it was booming in his prime and then kind of waned a little bit, but then actually started to tick back up as I got close to joining it, to where he had a really good year the year before I joined it, but it was still definitely a single doctor, single location practice. So in March of 2014, we opened a second location in Evans, Georgia. Grown up in Georgia, big Georgia fan, big Atlanta Braves fan, and if you're familiar with them, you're familiar with the fact that we went through a lifetime of heartache and getting close until 2021, when both brought home the championships. So we're back to heartbreak again, but we'll see what the Braves have in store this year after a relatively quiet off season. And the next most common question when someone hears you're from Augusta is, have you ever played Augusta National, and can you get me Masters tickets? So yes and no. The bottom right picture was probably my first time playing Augusta National. It was right after my 16th birthday. The guy on the left was one of my best friends, still is one of my best friends, and his grandfather was a member at Augusta National. And so Keenan called me the day after my 16th birthday and said, "Hey, we don't have school on Monday. What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "You want to go play golf?" I said, "Yeah, where you want to go?" And he said, "I was thinking you and your granddad, me and my granddad at the National." So I had just gotten my driver's license. Well, I didn't think life could get any better, and then it did. And then the left picture was December 27th of this just 2024. So that was my most recent time. It is definitely a religious experience if you are a golf fanatic, or even if you're just on the perimeter of golf. It's somewhere you need to try to get, even if it's to go to a practice round at the Masters, drive, chip, and putt, or the Augusta National Women's Amateur. Any way you can step foot on that property, it is a spectacular place. This is my team. My wife says I have 15 work wives, but that's the in-office team. They all get along really, really well, which is a blessing for me, and they certainly make my life easier every single day. So on top is our Augusta office. We opened it, like I said, Dad opened in 1981. And then the bottom is the Evans office, which we opened in March of 2014. In Augusta, we've kind of outgrown it. We're renting 20 parking spots from the office next door, no open breakers. And so we hope to move into this building in May of this year. This is my team. Two scheduling coordinators, one financial and insurance person. Lauren is our new patient coordinator, and then I have two treatment coordinators. We'll talk about the difference in those in just a minute. And then I have 6 chairside assistants, a records tech who also, she's been there a long time, and she does all the ordering as well. And then 2 lab technicians. The one on the left does all of your traditional lab work, making retainers, making Hyraxes, space maintainers, and the one on the right does all of our digital lab work. So 3D printing. She does all of our digital lab prescription submissions for KLO and for aligners. And she also loads all the attachment templates for aligners and pastes all the brackets for the KLO. So she is an integral part for tracking shipping, making sure that cases have arrived and are on time. She's an integral part to making sure that the wheel keeps turning. So today we're going to talk about a problem that we were facing, an opportunity I saw to solve the problem, and then how we implemented that solution and the results that came out of that implementation. So the problem that we were facing is we were doing about 75 to 85 new patient exams per month, but I was getting about 100 to 125 new patient calls per month. This was July of 23 where I took this screenshot out of Gauge. But it was pretty indicative of a normal month. And what you'll see on the right is that there were 250 future scheduled exams, and that reached 260 at its peak. So we were about 4 months out on a new patient exam. If you know Mary Beth Kirkpatrick from what used to be Impact 360 is now Gauge 360 Consulting, she was flipping out, and she's breathing down my neck to hire another treatment coordinator. My treatment coordinator, I had just hired the new patient coordinator. I had just created the records tech position and then backfilled that. Alicia had been a chairside assistant. She transitioned into the records tech position. I backfilled that with a new assistant. And So I've just added 2 new staff members. This is, 2 years ago. And the TC, I'm not looking to add another mouth to feed. The TCs don't want to see more exams, which is Mary Beth's other solution. They feel like they're going to compromise on their level of customer service, their level of follow-up with pending patients. And so we're kind of at an impasse. And um, part of what created this problem is that my biggest referrer, who is a pediatric dentist here in Augusta, she brought on an associate. So the owner pediatric dentist typically only referred younger children when there was something really necessary. So crossbite, ectopic eruption. She pretty much knew when I was going to do some sort of phase one, which is not much. I'm not a big phase one orthodontist. I just don't do a ton of it. And so she knew when we wanted them referred, and she was pretty comfortable monitoring the mixed dentition herself. The associate that she brought on basically started referring every single 7 to 9 year old in their practice, which is fantastic. I'm happy to have them. I don't want to lick a gift horse in the mouth. Um, but it created a problem. It's a great problem, but it created a problem. And so even when you look at the 10 and overs, which is just how our software breaks them down, we have exams that are 9 and under, we have exams that are 10 and over, and we have adult exams, which is how TOPS breaks it down for us. Even many of those 10 and overs aren't ready for treatment, but I've got so many 9 and unders coming in. This is April through July of 2023, that it's clogging the system that I can't get the 12 to 14-year-old patients in to start treatment. So I did a lunch and learn with that pediatric dental practice. It slowed down the referral of the really unnecessary referrals, but it didn't stop it. And so I thought about another opportunity that we might have to fix this problem or address this problem. And that is one staff member that we haven't talked about yet and wasn't pictured in any of the pictures, which is Kelly. And then an asset that we already used in the practice for all of our aligner patients, which is Grin. And so Kelly was the treatment coordinator. She was the very first hire that we hired in 2014 after I started. So I started January 2nd, 2014, and we hired her like January 20 something of 2014. And we hired her to be a clinical assistant. And Dad and I pretty much knew after the first adjustment that she did. And she came from an orthodontic practice in Utah, but it happened to be her father-in-law's. But we knew after her first adjustment that clinical assistant was probably not the right seat on the bus for her. And but we looked at each other, and her infectious smile, her personality, her level of customer service, and just we call her sunshine. She is a ray of sunshine. As soon as you meet her, we knew we had to keep her, and we had to find the right seat on the bus for her. Well, up until that point, this is 2014, Dad had never had a treatment coordinator in the practice. So imagine practicing where whatever assistant is available when a new patient walks in the door for their exam is the assistant who's going to be responsible for that new patient exam. And that's how we were operating in January of 2014. So I said, it's time for a treatment coordinator, and that's what Kelly became. And she was amazing. And then in 2021, she came to us and said, one of those conversations where she says, I need to talk to you at 5 o'clock today. And I don't know about y'all's conversations that start that way, but ours are never good when an employee says, hey, I need to talk to you at 5 o'clock. And so at 5 o'clock, she comes to us in tears and says, my husband got a job in Reno, Nevada, and we have to move. And so I called my wife and I said, She said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "What's the worst thing that could possibly happen?" And she said, "Oh my gosh, Kelly's leaving." And I said, "You're exactly right." And I gave Kelly, I brought Kelly in the next day and I said, "You might be moving, but you're not quitting." And I sent her to Reno with a laptop, our VoIP phone system loaded on it, Tops loaded on it, and Grin. And I said, "You're going to handle all of our Grin patients from here on out." And at the time, it was just aligner patients. But I realized that with the backlog of new patient exams we were experiencing, as we fast forward back to 2023, um, a Grin scope and an unbelievable TC is the perfect opportunity to clear this backlog of patients, most of whom are not ready for treatment. And it was an opportunity to extend our brand, the Trotter Orthodontics brand, into the patient's home. So I presented this idea to Mary Beth Kirkpatrick, and she basically patronized me and said, "Okay, well, when that doesn't work, you can hire a third TC." So I called Kelly and I said, "Are you willing to take on a few more hours and help me with this?" And she said, "Actually, I've been meaning to call you. I've been wanting more hours, and if you didn't have anything else for me to do, I was going to have to find a practice here in Reno to work for." I said, "No, no, no, don't do that. I got you covered." So here's the solution that we came up with. I don't know if any of y'all are golf fans. I've already referenced the Masters, but the website company that we use for our website is here in Augusta. They're not dental specific, and I didn't want them to be dental specific, but they did for a long time all of the branding and social media for the Masters golf tournament. And so back during the COVID time when the Masters couldn't accept patrons, they did Masters food boxes. So you could order a taste of the Masters, and they would ship you pimento cheese and egg salad and barbecue and all the stuff that goes with the taste of the Masters, and ship it to you in a branded box. And well, anyway, it was our brand managers, the same company that we use here in Augusta, who did that and executed that. So I said, all right, if they can execute that for Augusta National, they can execute that for me. Up with a box that we were going to send off, and we were going to put a Grin scope. We're going to put some Trotter Orthodontic swag, and we're going to put a QR code and link a video to our to welcome patients into the practice. And so we did that, and here's what we came up with. And so this was, I wanted patients to feel welcomed. I didn't want patients to feel like they were just getting tossed to the side, or, "Hey, we don't think you're ready for treatment, so we just want to see you remotely." We wanted them to feel like they were getting the full experience. And so this is what Weir Stewart helped us to design. And we felt like it gave patients the full experience of really feeling welcomed to the practice. And so that QR code on the inside of the box takes them to a welcome video, which is this welcome video. And so I shot this with my son. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Paul. This is my son Jackson. Thanks for choosing Trotter Orthodontics. So by now you've gotten your Grin scope in. This is how we're going to submit your new patient exam so that we can check you out from home and save you a trip into the office. So what you're going to do is go ahead and attach your scope to the back of your cell phone camera. Tighten that strap down really tight so that no light gets in from around the edges. If you're a child, parents, you're going to slip this into your child's mouth. If you're an adult, you will just step into the mirror, do everything in the mirror, and slip it into your own mouth. So go ahead and slip this in. It's really small. The child size slips right in, and go ahead and bite down around those lips. And I underestimated how small it is. And then you'll follow the directions on the screen, and the video coming right up will show you what those directions are.
Launch the Grin app and make sure you're standing in front of a mirror, which will help you see as you record your scans. Once the Grin scope is centered in your mouth, tap Start Recording. Follow the on-screen prompts to capture the right and left sides of your mouth, making sure to keep your bite closed with your back teeth tightly together. Next, open your mouth wide and point the scope at an almost 90-degree angle to capture your bottom teeth, then your top teeth, making sure the front teeth are in frame each time. When you're done recording, you can review your scan, retake, or upload it, which will automatically send your scan to the in-app chat between you and Trotter Orthodontics for our review. Congratulations! You're on your way to a new smile.
So I wanted it to be our brand. As much as I love Grin, I didn't want it to be all about Grin. I wanted it to be all about welcoming the patient to Trotter Orthodontics so that the experience was all about them becoming a patient at our practice. And so what you'll notice is that the instructions are good. They're very generic, so that if the Grin app ever changes or they move a button around, I don't have to totally redo that video. Yes, Jackson's mouth is tiny. I totally underestimated how small his mouth is. But maybe one day we'll have a Grin scope that is made for a little bit younger patient. Even that was the mini. But I still haven't had but maybe 2 patients who have said this thing is just too small for my mouth. This was the manager down at Weir Stewart that we worked with, and anyway, I thought she had a funny comment that I've cracked some sort of code. But anyway, they are extremely innovative, and I enjoy working with them. But so our process for this is we target patients who are under the age of 12 and who are quote unquote questionable leads. What a questionable lead is basically those website leads that come in at 2 o'clock in the morning from adults who you're not so sure they're really that interested. Those are the ones that we actually just drop ship a scope from Grin. So you have that option through Grin to just drop ship them a scope. And then we're not sending them the branded box with all the swag. The Grin scan, it comes first. We offer that to them first. The scripting on that is most patients in your age range aren't ready for any sort of orthodontic treatment at this time. In order to save you a visit into the office, we can offer you this technology to complete your new patient exam from home so that you don't have to miss school and work to bring your child in to hear that he or she isn't ready for treatment. And when you present it to them that way, it's all in the scripting. But when you present it to them that way, you're presenting it to them with the benefit first for them. This has nothing to do with how it benefits me. It has everything to do with how it benefits them. And we will offer it to adolescent patients if they don't want to wait. It kind of ebbs and flows. And so we go through periods of time now that we've gotten into this where we're not scheduled that far out with new patient exams. And so we don't have a ton of Grin exams scheduled. But we go through times where we haven't done very many Grin exams. So we get a little bit further out on in-office exams. And so more and more people start electing for Grin. But we're never forcing it. So if somebody is skeptical or just says, I'd really rather come into the office, then we're certainly absolutely offering them or even encouraging them to come into the office. But the scripting is definitely the key to it. So this is how it works. We use the referral leads because this is a direct link into the practice or into Grin. So as soon as we load them into this referral lead webpage, which this is what it looks like, then that patient is loaded into Grin and gets an invitation. And so Grin offers you an entire suite of marketing materials. And these pages like this are customized for you to match your website colors, styling, and so that it looks just like your brand. And this is great to help for you to recruit your own new patients and have it tagged on your website for those web leads, but also to share with your referring doctors, and your referring doctors can use this same website. And so it's great to share with them as well. So on the new patient coordinator side, and so my new patient coordinator is basically the person who answers the phones, and she handles a new patient from the time they make the phone call, or they are referred into the practice until the time that they have completed their or started their new patient exam. So in the office until the TC takes over, or with Grin until Kelly takes over. So she's going to create a TOPS chart for them and send them the Grin invitation. So she's going to fill out that form that I just showed you. She's then going to send them a welcome email with instructions for once they receive the scope, and that's a form email that we've come up with. She's going to send them a link to their new patient forms via Gauge Consult Manager, which is what we use to manage forms, and it has our payment slider and those sorts of things once we get to financials. Then she's going to ship them the Grin box that we showed you. And we put a little swag in there. She's going to pick the appropriate size of scope based on the patient's age. And then she's going to send a text to the patient and parent to let them know that they're getting 2 separate emails, one from the practice and one from Grin with the invitation to join Grin. Then Kelly, whom you met, the one that lives in Reno, she's going to send the patient a welcome message in Grin and go ahead and invite them to scan as soon as they receive the Grin scope. She's going to contact the dentist and find out what their most recent PAN and Prophy date is. And she's also going to check and make sure that the patient has completed the new patient forms. Once we have all of that, then she adds the patient to the TOPS schedule for a virtual exam. And that's when I know that it's time for me to review the Grin scan. If there's a PAN, then I'll review the PAN, and for me to do my portion of this whole process. Kelly will then go back through the follow-up, and most of that's done via the Grin app. If treatment's recommended, sometimes Kelly will call and do the TC things over the phone, but a lot of this is done via the Grin app. And then if there's a contract that's needed, if treatment's recommended, she'll send that through Gauge Consult Manager. So my portion of this, what does that look like? I'm going to open the chart in TOPS. I'm going to review it and review the referral, review any notes that either Kelly or Lauren, the new patient coordinator, have put in ahead of time. I'm going to look and see if there's a PAN, and if so, I'll obviously review the PAN. And then I'm going to look at the Grin video and their Grin scan and decide what I want to do. Then I'm going to record a short response, like 2 to 3 minutes. The maximum you can add in there in the Grin software is 5 minutes. And then I'm going to add notes to the TOPS chart. And so what does that look like? So I'm typically doing this at 8 o'clock in the morning or right when we start back from lunch. So I don't know how y'all's patients or your schedule flows, but typically those times of the morning, because my assistants are working off of the next visit notes from the previous appointment, they're sitting down and they're getting to work, and there's not a whole lot for me to do right then. And so I'm typically standing around with nothing to do. So instead of doing that, I'll sit down at my desk and knock out like 2 of these. So I'm not adding to my digital homework, which was one of my key requirements for really starting this. And so here's an example of a response to a patient. This patient was 7 years old. We're still awaiting upper and lower 2s to erupt. I had a somewhat recent PAN. And so I'll show you how I review the PAN with them. And all of this software to review this is built into Grin. So there's no extra software for you to download. You don't have to download a screen sharing video software or anything. This is all built into Grin to put your camera up there and show your face, to draw on the screen, record the video is all in Grin software. So here's a average response. Good morning, Nathan and Leslie. Paul Trotter, nice to meet you. Thanks for doing your Grin scan and good job with it. So I'll show you what I see. So from the front, Nathan, you have a little bit more overlap of your upper and lower front teeth than what we're looking for. So I don't want them biting right on top of each other, but we want a little bit of overlap, and you have more than that. So much so that your lower front teeth are biting up into the gum tissue behind your upper front teeth. We see that a lot. It's nothing urgent, nothing that needs to be treated right now. We can wait until all your permanent teeth come in to address that. There shouldn't be any lasting damage that happens over the next few years. If left untreated into adulthood, that's when we would see some damage from that. Looking from the side, we like that this upper canine here bites between these two lower back teeth. That's a good bite. Looking over on your right side, same thing. You can see it even a little bit better over here on your right side. We like that this tooth is centered between these two, so really good bite from front to back. Looking at your lower, so these two front teeth are permanent, two back teeth are permanent, and then all of the middle teeth are baby teeth, and that's totally normal for your age. We are waiting on two more permanent teeth to come in right here and right here. And I'll show you on your x-ray in just a second where those are. And then, probably maybe just a little bit short on space for those two permanent teeth, but they will find a way in. No need to try to create more space for those. Looking at the top, exactly the same situation. So front two teeth are permanent, back two teeth are permanent, and then all three middle teeth on both sides are baby teeth, and that's exactly where you should be at your age. And very similar scenario where we're still waiting on these two teeth here to come in. They're called laterals, and they are working their way in. They're maybe just barely a little bit shy on space, but they will find a way in. So you can see this one kind of bulging right here. And so when we click over to your x-ray, you can see these are those upper laterals here working their way in. You can tell they've kind of squeezed those two front teeth together to make a little bit more space for themselves. Here are those lower laterals working their way in. Everything else looks great on this x-ray right now. So this one's from June. So what we'll do is probably do a new scan on you with Grin in about 6 months and see how everything's going. And I'll probably bring you into the office then in about 6 months and also update our x-ray. Just make sure that everything's developing normally, aimed in the right direction. So my job at this point of your development is to just direct traffic and make sure that all of those permanent teeth come in where they're supposed to, when they're supposed to. So our goal will be one set of braces once all your permanent teeth come in. So I will let Kelly reach out to you if you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing another scan in about 6 months and then getting you in the office for a quick x-ray. So thanks again, and have a great rest of your school year. Have a great day. So that video was 3.5 minutes long. And so it's amazing how much information you can squeeze into 3 minutes when you don't have a parent there interrupting you. And so then 6 months later, we get a new Grin scan. I bring them in for a quick 5-minute appointment to get an x-ray, which is way easier to find on the schedule than maybe a short recall appointment is. And so then we rinse and repeat this whole process in 6 months. And, there are only so many short recall appointments that you can have on your schedule that are not during school hours. But how many 5-minute x-ray appointments can you take and then have them do this scan not during school hours? A whole lot more. And when do they want to come in? Not during school hours. And so it just dramatically cuts down on the number of recall appointments that you're doing in the office, the number of new patient exam appointments you're doing in the office, and the number of people who are fighting for those after school appointments. And so this was the response from the mom. Thank you very much. We've reviewed your video message and think that's great news. We look forward to coming to the office and again for x-rays in 6 months. Have a great day. Let us know if you need anything else. And then Kelly responds to them, and all is great. They had a good experience. So did this work? And so if you remember, we were doing about 80 to 85, 75 to 85 new patient exams back in January or July of 2023. Here's January of 2024, so about 6 months later, and we're at 112 total exams that we did. And remember, we were at like 250 future scheduled exams. 6 months later, we're down to 100. So it was definitely working and doing exactly what I wanted it to do. It worked so much that Mary Beth, who told me that when it didn't work, I could hire a third treatment coordinator. It worked so well that she had me give this presentation to her study club. But not that I'm saying I told you so, but anyway. So do people actually do it? So that's the other question I get. And so in our first 5 months, I ran this data. And so 93% of the scopes that we mailed to children were the children scanned, and about 60% of the adults scanned. So remember, the adults are leads that are more like web kind of leads, and typically they have a high no-show rate in the office. And so those are patients that likely would have no-showed their exam. And so I'm happy for them to have about a 60% click-through rate on Grin. Now, so those were the first 5 months or so of data. Here is all of the data since we started doing this. So about 260 patients. This is straight from my Grin dashboard. There are all kind of reports that you can pull from that. But 97% of the people that we've invited have downloaded the app, and 87% have scanned. So we're still waiting on a few scans, but that capture rate is really good for very minimal effort. And particularly when we break it down by age, many of the ones who have not scanned are adults who wouldn't have come to the appointment either. When we look at whether it helped us clear out the younger patients, so here's what it did. We've got about 30% fewer exams in our first 4 months of doing this in the 9 and under category, about 10% fewer adults, and then increased the 10 and over category. So it did exactly what I wanted it to do, which was huge. And so Kelly said, basically, as soon as we can get them the Grin app and the scope, they're downloading the app, taking the scan, doing their paperwork. And most are even doing the paperwork before they get the Grin scope. Lauren, my new patient coordinator, says that Grin exams are literally the best thing I've ever done in my practice. And I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration. She's biased towards the new patient side of things. But she was a big fan. And this is a dental hygienist. So she cleans the teeth of a local orthodontist. Her daughter was in a Hyrax with the local orthodontist. She wasn't super thrilled with how it was going, and she also cleans one of my treatment coordinator's teeth. So she asked for a second opinion, and I don't take in-town transfers, but anyway, we gave her just an opinion via Grin, and I won't make you read the whole quote, but what she says is she showed several of her friends the video immediately because she was so impressed, and she will refer everyone she can to Trotter Ortho. And this is from a practice that refers virtually nothing right now, or at the time. And so, the top one is a mom of 5 kids. And so you can imagine how she feels with the convenience. She would have had to take him out of school, drive to the office. And she says she's literally saving hours of time for each visit. And then the bottom one is amazing, saved her a trip to the office. She would highly recommend it and glad to use it again in the future. So the experience for the patients and the parents has been exceptional and universally positive. So where do we go from here? Um, so this is the pediatric dentist that I mentioned earlier. This is the owner doctor, and she has asked if we could put this in her office. So she treats a lot of special needs patients, and many of them she feels like would never be ready for orthodontic treatment. But many times she is going to take them to the OR or sedate them with an anesthesiologist in her office and do a bunch of dental work. And she wants my opinion a lot of times on, should I take out these baby teeth? Would that help eruption? What do you think? And she said, look, I wouldn't have to send them to your office. I could take the Grin scan and send you a pan, and we could just do this straight from my office. And so Grin actually has that capability with a records app. We can give her a Grin scope, give you can give the general dentist or pediatric dentist, whatever referring dentist you want, the records app, and they can go ahead and take the scan through your records app and go ahead and make the referral right there in a couple of minutes. It'd be way less than 5 minutes for them to do that, which is a great next option. I just basically haven't had the time to get her set up on it yet, but that's the next iteration of this. Another idea that I've had with this is, we sponsor a lot of community events, whether it's a 5K, whether it's a golf tournament, whether it's a charity concert, where you end up with a table and you're like, what do I put on the table? Do I put hats? Do I put cups? Do I put water bottles? Do I put lip gloss? Like, what am I giving away at this thing? And sunglasses, and it's mostly crap that people are going to go home and never use again. What if I give them a Grin scope in this box? And I mean, if a few of them click through and, do the Grin scan and do a new patient exam from this event that you've sponsored, you covered your sponsorship. And so I think that's probably potentially another next iteration of this is your swag giveaway at a community event that you've sponsored. So with that, I will open it up to any questions that Kurt has gotten, and appreciate your time, and thank you for listening on a Friday. I'm sorry for the technical snafu in the middle, but glad we were able to keep pushing through.
Thanks, Dr. Trotter. Yeah, one question I got from the audience, how about patient retention and loyalty? There's hesitations, right, for some people to think they're not coming into my office. You addressed a little bit about the acceptance rate, but do patients discuss how you got them started? Does that help the practice? Do you see any increase, decrease in loyalty, engagement?
Yeah. So most of the moms that we have seen have gone, I've had them talk to me about it at my kids' sporting events or other events that we've seen, and they're raving about how it has saved them time, especially for like a dual working family, or even single moms. And so it's working the opposite way. It's building your brand because you're respecting their time. And so again, it all goes back to the scripting of it, and how you're presenting it to them. And then as far as when we do see a patient with a crossbite, either anterior or posterior, somebody who needs a space maintainer, or we get an adult, the retention rate on them is really, really high. So of those 260 patients, I think about half of them have gone into observation. Of the adult portion of them, about half have started treatment, and about half, we never see again. And then on the kid side, the half that didn't go into observation, the start rate on those that have been recommended treatment, I forgot now. I think it's like 60 or 70%. It's very high. And so the engagement, the enthusiasm for it is very good, and most parents are looking at it as you're respecting their time and saving them a trip into the office, and not the negative view of it, which is they just don't want to see me and they don't care about me.
Sure, that makes sense. Lots of questions coming in now. uh, Dr. Chang, I think, Dr. Rita, what software did you use to record your video? And do you email them video to them or text?
Yeah, so the video software is built into Grin, and so there's no additional software needed. And it also gets sent to them straight through the Grin app. So it's all HIPAA compliant, and they get their notification in the Grin app. They'll also get a text notification from Grin saying that you have a new video review of your scan. And so all that is handled through Grin. There's no extra software to have to purchase. It's built in, super easy.
And great. And Dr. Badia asked about the cost of scopes. Dr. Badia, they're $12 a scope through Grin. Dr. Annabella asked, how do you deal with virtual consults once you send the quote and you get no response?
Kelly is following up with those. So they're the same as a pending patient from in your office that says, hey, I need to go talk to the other parent. It's no different than that. And you have to work them the same way you work a pending patient who leaves your office and says, oh, I need to go talk to dad. So they become pending, and it hasn't happened a ton. You know, I will say a lot of the adults are the web leads that are just kicking the tires, and they want to know if they can afford treatment or not. And so, you know, you probably have those leads in your practice. They're not the strongest leads in the world. And so for us to have probably half of those start treatment, I wasn't expecting it to be that high. I was expecting probably 20 or 30%. I wasn't expecting half the adults to even complete the scan, to be honest with you. To have the click-through rate with the scanning that we have has been really surprising, to get that data.
So that's great. Another question, Dr. Holly asked, the video you showed with directions for patients to scan right to left and then the occlusal shots, are you able to modify the scans, choose different photos?
So that was the one that our marketing company put together for us. And so yes, I mean, that was custom. We made that one custom with our marketing company. And so you could have whatever you wanted in there. But it's based on the Grin directions. So we were following basically how the Grin app is going to tell them to scan. And so we were just trying to mimic what the patient and parent are going to see in the Grin app. And that's where that was basically drafted from. Was we were trying to mimic that, but have it branded more for us and less for Grin. Sorry, Kurt.
Oh, makes complete sense. Guess one of the final questions, as far as how often you use the remote consultation with all the other features within Grin, could you talk a little bit to is that something that got you initially interested in Grin, or did it come following remote monitoring with Grin?
Yeah, so I found Grin during COVID when Grin offered to send 10 scopes to any orthodontist who would take them. And so that's how I found Grin. I started monitoring some of our adult aligner patients while we were closed for COVID, and then trying to catch up. And then basically started using it for all of my aligner patients because the feedback was so universally positive from the patients that we started with it on. So I started small, moved into all of my aligner patients. That was going so well. Then we found this problem in 2023 that we were booking out for exams. Kelly wanted some more hours. It just lined up that this was a great solution. So then we moved into remote consultation. So I went from aligners to remote consultation. And then in April of last year, I switched over to the KLO self-ligating bracket. So it's a custom bracket. And at that point, I put all of my braces patients on Grin as well. So we also monitor like phase 1 hyraxes. We're monitoring them in Grin. So now, we cement the hyrax, and then we schedule at the cementation, we schedule 8 months later the removal, and all of the monitoring for the expander is done in Grin. We do the same thing with carriers. So when we bond a carrier motion appliance, we don't actually schedule the patient back for their next appointment. We'd say your next appointment is dependent on how well you wear the elastics, and your next appointment in here will be to remove that appliance. And so it's a little bit on demand scheduling with that. And so it's allowed us to cut back on a lot of the in-office appointments to the point that my goal for 2026 is to get back to 3.5 days a week. And I think we're going to get there.
So you get decrease your handicap.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more question. You said that you send swag, etc., with the Grin scope to each prospective patient. Do you use the dropship option directly from Grin? And if you could share any costs or resources associated with that option.
Yeah, we use the dropship option mostly for kind of the questionable adult leads, but we designed this custom box for the vast majority of the patients that we send this to. We probably only drop ship a handful of boxes a year. I'd have to go back and look at the stats to see of those 260 patients, how many were drop shipped, but my guess is probably not more than 20. So this box is custom for us, and it's just part of us wanting it to be a very welcoming experience, and extending our brand into the patient's home, and have them feel like we are giving them the full experience, and not just having them do their exam from home so that we don't have to see them in the office, but getting the full experience of our practice.
Gotcha. Do you care to share who created the box?
Cost-wise. Yeah. So those boxes are about $5.50 each, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The hat is a couple of bucks. It's cheap. Honestly, I need to switch the swag up a little bit. The Grin scope, is $12. The card is about 60 cents. And so plus shipping, all in, we probably are in it for about $20 to $25 to ship one out. But to get me from 250 future scheduled exams down to 100, and I didn't have to hire another staff member to do it, that was well worth the investment for me.
Valuable. Yep. Absolutely. And for those wondering, if you just did the drop ship option yourself, which Grin offers, it's about the same cost. You're in about $24. We send it directly to the patient's practice with a QR code, and everything matches up. What Dr. Trotter said, to conduct the same type of evaluation he showed. So there is an option through us, but as Dr. Trotter's known for, he's a trailblazer. He does it himself.
Well, you said earlier I've mastered it, but I think if you once you feel like you've mastered something, that's probably when you've got it understood the least. So
True.
Always trying to figure out a new or better way to do something.
Great. Any other final thoughts want to leave everybody with?
I'm happy. I don't think I put my contact information up there, but I am definitely happy to answer any questions, emails. It's just Paul, Paul, at trotterortho.com. And so I'm happy to answer any email questions you might have. I'm sure that there's no need to reinvent the wheel if you want to design a box like this. It can certainly put you in touch with the people that did this for me. And, it's been great. I couldn't imagine trying to squeeze all these patients into our schedule at this point in the office.
Makes sense. And I put in the chat for everybody, if you're a potential new provider of Grin or a current provider of Grin, if you want to reach out to us and get more specific information, in the chat is a link to start that conversation. But just real basic, with the subscription with Grin, you also get the opportunity to do this remote consultation process at a very valuable rate that's very affordable. So we'd be happy to walk you through how to do the remote consultations and get a Grin subscription going. So with that said, Dr. Trotter, thank you so much for sharing all your experiences. You're certainly valuable to the orthodontic community, to the listeners, and we love you at Grin. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. For everybody else, a recording of this webinar, if you have friends or just want to listen back to some of the content that was provided, we'll send an email out following this webinar where you can access it again. And of course, reach out to us as well, and we'll help direct you if you have any specific questions for Dr. Paul. But with that said, Dr. Paul, thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Appreciate everybody's the time you took away from your practices and family, and wish you a great weekend. Hope to talk with you soon.